If you work in quality control at a candy factory, you know strict safety regulations come with the job. It's why you partner with Grainger. Grainger helps you find the high-quality and compliant products your business needs to inspect, detect, and help correct issues. And the sweetest part is, everyone gets a product that's as safe to eat as it is delicious. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
Hey guys, welcome back to another Weird Wednesday. I'm Ashers, and this is...
Pat O.
You already know what I'm going to ask you, so... You want me to... Pat, how was your weekend?
I was going to make you say it. Make you fucking say the words to me.
Make me work for it, huh?
Ask me about myself. Request that I speak on my own behalf. My weekend was all right. I don't know. I've been super busy with work. And that just kind of is what it is.
Sure.
And I worked on the movie this weekend, Torch of the Flesh. I actually... This is how fucking exhausted I've been with work. I was on set for a couple hours, and we filmed the scene where a bunch of three chicks leave a bar, and the killer follows one of them home, and then it's the first fuck a girl with a knife scene.
Oh yes. I've been excited about this.
Yes, and well, one of many in the screenplay, but it was the first one that we were filming, and I actually bowed out and went home early to get some sleep before. Well, they weren't going to do the actual knife fucking part because that's part of the special effects heavy, like the actual insert shot of like,
Sure.
Whatever.
Okay, all right, that's fine.
But I was there for all the boring, like, shooting stuff on the side streets of Elburn, Illinois, on a Saturday night while drunks like wander around. What are you guys filming? And that whole thing. So I did all the shit work, and then when it got to when the girl was going to take her boobies out and get fucked with a knife, I just was like, all right, I'm going home. There's no dialogue in these scenes. You guys don't need me. I'm exhausted. That's how tired I've been lately. So
I'm just saying, I better get some behind the scenes shots of this knife fucking incident because
follow them on Facebook because Torch of the Flesh. I think the link is in the.
Yeah, but are they going to post? I don't think they can post something like that on Facebook.
No, that you're going to have to actually watch the movie for.
What do you mean watch the movie? If you can't show me props.
I'll show you the girls. Actually, one of the girls was in a 48-hour film that I did about 2 years ago. Yes, they are. They're all just fucking things to do things with. I don't know. Yeah, so that was this weekend. I'm still not drinking or partying. So it'll be 30 days tonight at midnight that I've been clean and sober. So
wow, tonight at midnight.
Yeah,
well, congratulations, good for you.
Yeah, so doing that and then doing the vegetarian thing here and there. Because like this would probably be a good show topic, but I mean, are you familiar with like factory farming? I'm not like a super big animals rights person. Like I know there's lots of people that are vegan and like really hardcore vegetarian. I like Mexican food too much. Like I like steak tacos. I like burritos. But I am very well aware of how terrible animals are treated.
Oh yeah.
For them to get meat that we eat. Cows don't just like live on a fucking pasture and then they're like brought in and like killed. Like they're born and raised into these hellish conditions.
Oh yeah, I know. Yeah, it's awful.
Yeah, and I always thought that would make a good horror movie too. Like if you had like a group of people that were subjected to the same exact procedures that we subject animals to get meat, and you showed humans like in gestation crates and battery cages and forced to be fucking milked and all this stuff. Like
don't quote me on this, but I feel like that already, I'm almost positive that already is a movie. Either that or you and I have talked heavily about that before.
I think we have, because I ran a Kickstarter about 5 years ago trying to get this movie made. I have the script written. Yeah, I called it The Jungle 2099, but like it's $1 million idea, and I don't. And the more I talk about it, I'm at the point now where like I'll probably never make it, but someone go make it because I want to watch it.
Yeah, someone please make this movie. I would watch it. Yeah, it's right up my alley.
Yeah, so
that's... well, yeah, I am familiar. I'm pescatarian. I'm pretty sure you knew that, but I guess maybe you didn't.
What's that mean?
I don't eat like red meats.
Oh, okay.
I'll eat seafood.
Mm-hmm.
In lieu of, and it's not so much like an animal rights thing. I mean, factory farming is awful. Dairy farming is just the absolute fucking worst.
Yeah.
It doesn't always have to be, but most of the time it is because it's cheap. But I just don't really like meats, really. I don't really. But considering my diet anyway, and just how I have to be for health reasons, I it's easiest for me to eat meat. Um, but I don't. So I mean, I compromise with seafood because I don't mind seafood. But those are some pretty awful practices as well. Like tuna farming is terrible. So you just pick your poison. I mean, we can't. If somebody can be vegan, more power to you. Really, honestly, it's a lot of work. It's hard.
It
You know,
is.
I've tried
Yeah.
it. I've tried to go full vegan because there's differences, but I can't. I don't have. I just can't.
It's a
I
lot
just
of meal prep, and it's a lot of like you have to make your food consumption more of like a focal point of your life than it's ever been in the past. Like it is
right,
like for me, like I'm at the point now where I've been like I've been making more of an effort with this stuff for the past couple weeks, and all I've really been doing is like trying to eat meat only maybe once a day, and then having as many completely meat free days as possible. And I've done like about 2 meat free days a week, and then if at the most I'll have meat like maybe once a day, and
right,
that's it. And all it is like you just keep it's choices, and you just keep trying to make the better choice whenever you given the opportunity. And sometimes you don't have an opportunity, especially like us where we have kids and shit, where it's like, okay, well, I'm not going to totally derail what everybody's eating because I'm making a frozen sausage pepperoni pizza, but I'm gonna fucking not have it. Or everyone wants to do this, and I'm gonna be the oddball and go in the other direction. And now I got to
right,
make something completely different. Sometimes you just got to do what you got to do.
right.
But the more you make those choices, and the more you kind of get yourself in the habit of being more thoughtful when you grocery shop or planning things out a little bit better. In the long run, it gets easier to make those choices.
Right, and I
So
mean, the more you end up reducing, your footprint. But let's be honest, it's not. It's very expensive, and people are like, oh no, it's not. Well, sure, if you want to eat the same 10 foods for the rest of your life, it's not. But who the hell we're human. What one of our
right,
simplest joys in life is eating, and so let's just be honest there. I mean, there are meat substitutes and things like that, but again, they're much more expensive. You can get them cheaper. You can coupon for them and all that good stuff, but it's expensive, and it can be extremely inconvenient for people that don't have lifestyles where they can just spend all this time cooking and preparing food. And like you
yeah,
said, matching the needs of other people with of course, people with different health concerns and things like that. I mean, you definitely have to be on top of it. But factory farming is not just bad because of the cruelty to animals. It's probably the most uh
destructive of the environment.
very destructive to the environment. And
Yeah,
so, I mean, as much as we can reduce our footprint as possible, which we already know now that reducing your footprint isn't so much just on the personal responsibility. I mean, I know the more of us that do it, the better, but it is more these big corporations, and they are, they fucking outshine us by metric tons. You know what I mean? So
right.
it's just one of those things. But I mean, try it out. It's not that bad. It's not as difficult as people think. It
Yeah, the
is.
best advice I've gotten so far is not to try and adopt a bunch of vegetarian recipes. Is just to stick with stuff that you already like to eat, and then
Right. Tweak
cut
it.
the meat out of it. You know what I
Right.
mean? Or like figure out how to do substitutes there. And I've done that, and that's worked out pretty good. But I like quesadillas, a lot of quesadillas, veggie burritos. I actually, when I was doing the Kickstarter for the Jungle 2099, I was vegetarian during that whole period, and it was like a 6 month that I spent like on pre-production on this, and it never
Sure.
happened. But yeah, it's my the staple of my vegetarian diet is veggie burritos, quesadillas, pasta, and peanut butter sandwiches,
Sure.
and
Well,
that's
yeah.
lots
Well,
of
I mean,
eggs.
just like any lifestyle change period, like you're going to fall off the wagon. You're going to. You just get back up and continue. It's just one of
Right.
those things. You can't beat yourself up about it. But no, it's pretty neat. So I'm okay. Well, Pat's doing the old well, you're vegetarian, not vegan. Is that right?
No,
What
I
you mean?
I come on. I need cheese, and I'm not giving up fucking that shit right
That's
now.
I know that's my thing. I fucking love cheese. I hate dairy farming, but I love cheese. It's well, and you can get ethically sourced things as well. Not just because somebody owns a dairy farm does not mean that they are fucking monsters. There are ways
Right.
that they can do it correctly and things like that, you know. So just know where you're getting your shit. At least if you're going to eat meat and stuff, know where it comes from, you know. That's
Buffalo Wild Wings has very good cauliflower wings that
I
are
bet they do.
almost they're you can't even tell the difference. They're pretty good.
You know, people whine all the time. They're like, I don't want cauliflower. That's gross. And I was like, just try it.
No, when we were doing, my wife goes through like fad diets and stuff, and we did keto pretty heavily, going in the complete opposite direction. We were doing the keto thing about a year ago, and that was I learned all the ways that you can cook and manipulate cauliflower, and it's not bad. You know, the cauliflower pizza crusts or whatever, like, you know, it's not the end of the world.
Yeah, I make like a cauliflower mac and cheese, and it's amazing.
I get down on that. I need some of that next time I'm over.
Yeah, I mean, it's better than regular mac and cheese, so I don't know.
I'm
And
sure.
it's not fattening because noodles. There's no noodles, so you know, whatever. That's fine if you don't want to live your best life and you guys just absolutely fucking hate cauliflower. That's on you. But I don't give a shit what you do with your body and what you put into it. I'll be honest with you. Do whatever you want to do.
Going back to something we talked about last week,
Sure.
We were talking about kind of actually the week before last week we had Aaron, but when we were talking about like COVID and concerts and stuff, I was supposed to go see Kiss this upcoming weekend, and I think the next stop on the Kiss tour, kind of the chase, Paul Stanley has COVID, so the Kiss tour that they're currently on right now is kind of up in the air. Their next scheduled concert appearance is Wednesday. Actually tonight, if you're listening to the show, they're supposed to be playing tonight in Dayton. Yeah, believe it or not. So hopefully he gets better and he does that, because then a couple nights later they're supposed to be playing in Chicago and I'm supposed to go see him. But that's another one of these concerts that's like, or events that's like, is it going to happen? Is it not going to happen? You know, Kiss ain't going to cancel to the last minute. They ain't giving no money back. They ain't leaving any money on the table. So it's, you know,
that's true.
Fucking Paul Stanley has COVID, and they're like, "Wow, we'll just take this day by day."
Well, I mean,
let's not cancel the tour just yet. Well, let's just see what happens.
Well, people don't usually get over COVID in like a week. It just depends. It depends on who you are. It depends on, 10 days is like the minimum, I thought, but
he's had it for a hot minute. So I think might be the Chicago. I wouldn't be surprised if this Chicago date is the tour's back on date. If that's the one they come back for, because that would kind of line up time-wise, but it's very, we're still in the throes of it, I guess. It feels like it should be over, but then every once in a while, there's all this weird stuff that happened. McDonald's just released in the news today that they're going to close all their dining rooms again. And
our governor's been talking about shutting down restaurants again.
Yeah, it's like, I thought this was all fucking over.
No.
And it's like, no, they just released it just the summer. We had the summer off from COVID, and now we're all going back to being in a pandemic again. Like, what a weird fucking, what a weird way to like manage a pandemic.
As much as I want to talk about it, I'm not going to.
Talk about what?
COVID.
Oh yeah, we don't have to dwell on it. I just whatever.
But you're right. We're back in the pandemic again. It sucks. I mean, I guess we never left it. It's just that it's getting bad again. That's expected. This happens in pandemics. It goes up and down.
Yeah.
That's just where we're at, and eventually we'll be. Eventually, either I'm not gonna say it. I'm not gonna say it.
No.
I'm not gonna say it. Whatever. I'm sorry that you didn't get to see Kiss. You really loved them.
I might. No. It hasn't been canceled yet. They haven't officially.
It's not your show. Okay.
Yeah, they've canceled 3 dates so far.
Okay.
And then on Wednesday, today they're playing Dayton, and then which is the 1st, of course. We all know what today's date is, and then they're playing in Chicago Saturday the 4th.
Okay.
So
that's your show.
Yeah.
Okay.
So the big question is, are they going to be back on the road by the 4th? They have not canceled the whole tour yet because they're Kiss, and of course they wouldn't do something like that. They're just they're rescheduling individual shows.
Okay.
And the big question is whether or not this will affect me, or the train will get back on the tracks just in time for our stop, but we'll see. And then the one last thing I wanted to bring up before we hear about your weekend in the news is September 2nd, this Thursday. Tomorrow, I'm going to be doing the CryptoCasters thing.
That's right. CryptoCasters over on Clubhouse. That is, if you don't have Clubhouse, I mean, what are you even doing with your life? I mean, seriously. Get on Clubhouse. Get on Clubhouse and join the Cryptozoology Club, because we talk about a lot of cool things. Pat's going to be on there talking about
werewolves.
Werewolves.
Which isn't even my like. If you're a fan of Pat O'Sullivan and you're listening to the show because you know me IRL, you're like, of course he's doing an episode on werewolves because that's always been like my go-to movie monster. And no, they came to me and said, because I do shows with those guys like occasionally, and they came to me and said, hey, would you want to do an episode on werewolves? And I was like, of course.
Yeah,
and then I was
you're
like,
actually doing it with you don't even know, you're doing it with Lyle Blackburn, who is a big
clutch
deal.
my pearls. I don't know who that is.
Yeah, it's a big deal. A lot of people listen to the show.
Is he a werewolf?
Yes, Lyle Blackburn is a werewolf. No, he's not, but he just came out with his own hot sauce. And
get the fuck out of here! Really,
dude, Lyle Blackburn's a big deal, Pat.
And the hot sauce community?
No, just in the cryptid community. He's a cryptozoologist.
Oh,
he's on all the documentaries and stuff. There's two guys.
Is he the hat guy?
It's a hat guy. I don't know if he's that hat guy, but I'm pretty sure it is that hat guy. I can't remember if that one was Ken or if that was Lyle. I'm pretty sure that might have been Ken.
Holy shit! I need to research this before I
start
running my fucking mouth. What's his name? Because I'm gonna get his hot sauce on Amazon right now.
Lyle Blackburn.
Lyle Black. Oh yeah, he pops up right away.
Oh yeah, he's a big deal. I'm jealous. I have no idea why I wasn't asked, but I wasn't. Okay, so it's Greg. I'm talking to you. I'm just kidding. I'll be there. I'll listen. I'm sure I'll come up and fucking talk about werewolves also. But no, Lyle's a cool guy. So you're doing it with Lyle Blackburn, and then I believe Oscar from what is it, Induced Fear podcast, or is that what it is? I don't know. You should know.
He's written books about. He's written a lot of books about the Missouri like Sasquatches and stuff.
Yeah, he's a
Boggy Creek.
He's a big deal.
I want to see. Oh, his hot sauce pops up right away too.
He just released it just a couple months ago. I think you can get it on Amazon.
I'm looking for it. If you find anything on your end, let me know, because it's not
for the hot sauce, or
yeah.
Oh, that's easy. I'll get it for you.
Yeah, because I'll totally eat his stuff, and then we'll just talk about that the whole time.
Oh, you're gonna eat his stuff,
because I'll know more about hot sauce than I will about any of the fucking books he wrote. So I could just be like, we'll be talking about what he thinks about Momo. I'll be like, so put that hot sauce on fucking French fries or whatever.
He puts it on his Momo. his hot sauce. Yeah, he's got hot sauce. It's Lyle Blackburn. I mean, again, a lot of people here probably know who it is.
Uh-huh.
So that's.
Well, I feel honored to be counted amongst greats.
Yeah, you will.
Very cool. So check that out. Watch me make an ass out of myself in front of people that are way better at this than I am.
Absolutely. You're gonna do great. No, you're the movie guy, so that'll be good for you. It's a nice medium, so that'll be a great thing. But yeah, definitely check that out. Anything else you want to plug this week?
He plays in a band. He is the lead singer guitarist for Western horror punk band Ghoul Town. That's pretty cool.
I didn't even know that. That is really cool. Wow.
Yeah, I'm a bass player, so we'll talk about that. We'll talk about music.
Nah, we're dancing around each other a little bit. He's one of those people. We follow each other on all the social medias. I just never talked to the man yet. So, but it's happening. We're getting there.
I'll introduce you guys. I'll make introductions.
Yeah, please do.
My buddy Lyle.
Like, that's bullshit. I know. I'm so mad about it. No, it's all right. No, it's no big deal. This community is a lot smaller than people realize, and you end up meeting pretty much all your heroes within, well, from my track record, within about the first 2 years of getting into it seriously. So
right.
And they're all pretty nice, so they're willing to talk to you. But anyway, I don't have anything to plug except for, actually, I wanted to mention this a couple of weeks ago, and so I don't listen to a lot of shows, believe it or not, which sounds really shitty because a lot of my friends are podcasters.
Yeah, but if anyone knows you, it makes sense.
I just... Well, thank you to all my friends that do listen to my show. I'm a bad friend. I'm sorry. I know a lot of people, and eventually I do get around to listening to everybody's shows, and then when I do, like, I give you guys honest ratings. I tell you what I think. I do what I can. But I did start listening right before I went to Cryptid Bash. I started listening to the Moth Boys podcast. And let me tell you, that is some good stuff right there, man. That's Phew, that's really good. Now, it's probably just me because like I'm a moron and I like that kind of humor, but it's kind of dumb. It really is. It's just kind of like it's just like some dude bros talking about cryptids. But I think they're really funny. I liked all their jokes and the information. They give you the basics that they give you what you need to know. So I guess for somebody like me, I already know these things. I haven't fact checked them or anything, but like I said, it's entertaining at minimum, and they've been around since 2019, and they are just now getting around to, even though it's called Moth Boys, releasing a 4-part episode on the Mothman. So definitely check that out, because that has been how I've been judging them now. And so far, so good. They're doing a really good job. Episode 3 just came out this past Monday, and episode 4, the final episode, will come out next Monday. So at least listen to those. If you're here for the Mothman stuff, definitely go check out their Mothman stuff. But that's all I really have to update with. Yeah.
Yeah. What as long as we're pimping podcasts, which I guess could be a new segment of the show, pimping podcasts.
Pimpin'
Both.
podcast.
Yeah. What's his name? Oh my God. I'm going to pull it up real quick. Death by Media Man, Hank. He released 2 episodes this week. One's 6 minutes long, one's 7 minutes long. Thank you, Hank. And then there's also this podcast that I started checking out that I'm not affiliated with it anyway, but it's called Retronauts.
Okay.
And it's 3 dudes and they talk about like video games. And I never thought like that I would find they do very good research. They're very intelligent. They're witty, but they're not like beat yourself over the head with their sense of humor. They're not like, oh, look how clever we are. Like they're just generally humorous. And they talk about like this last one I listened to. It's the 30th anniversary this August of Super Nintendo being released. And
that's cool.
They talked about that for 2 hours. And before they did an episode on Evangelion and all the Evangelion video games, and they did one on Earthbound, and they did one on Final Fantasy IV and shit like that. So it's like you don't have to listen to every episode. You can. The last week's was about Battletoads,
Okay.
And
sure.
Yeah, it's kind of like ties into this week's topic, but
Yeah.
definitely if you want a more mainstream look at video game and culture and history and stuff, give them a peep.
Yeah. Okay. Well, absolutely. We check that out. And also, I know that there's no people who make stuff recently. The last one was with Tobias Whalen. So if you haven't listened to the people who make stuff episode with him, check that out. But they will come out. I promise. Just not my life hit the fan. Somebody else's life went to shambles, and I've been fixing it. So
You're a good friend.
I'm too kind. But it's okay. But it will continue. We've definitely got interviews that have been recorded already. There will be more people who make stuff, but Tobias's interview, as always, if you like the content over here, you'll absolutely love the interview with Tobias Whalen. So again, people who make stuff, check it out anywhere you get podcasts. I can't believe I just plugged my own show on my own show, but
Sure.
Hey, you know what? We're shameless over here. It's fine. So anyway, back to the news. So I posted something on social media. 2 days ago on Monday, and it was about this Idaho Bigfoot video.
Oh yeah.
Did you see that? Did you see that video, Pat?
I did.
You did, and I was very impressed with it. Initially, I was like, "Wow, this looks really good." Actually, mostly because of the fur. It was how the fur looked. Usually, when you see these things, they look pretty well groomed for living out in the woods their entire life.
Mm-hmm.
And this one did not look kind of disheveled, and it looked good. But my dreams were dashed by the fact that like it's probably not real because the only source I can find is from 3 years ago. And again, if you haven't checked it out, go. I posted everywhere on every one of my social media platforms of this Idaho Bigfoot video with the link. And then I posted the update as well. So the original video I found dates back to, like I said, 3 years ago at a guy named Mark Anders over in his YouTube channel. And this guy has a couple of different videos, and not just videos, but like random still pictures, and I'll like insert them at the beginning of a video, and he'll be like, "Oh, look at that," and then he like goes on this rant of this insane topic, and but doesn't really say the source of like where these things come from. However, if you look at the video, if you look at all the same creature in every video is pretty much the same creature in every video, which is strange, very very odd. So a lot of people have kind of chalked this guy up to being probably a hoaxer. But
Mm,
if you can find, if you go on my social media post and you see the video, if you can find that video dating back even earlier, if maybe he's not the original source, let me know, because I am curious, because it does look pretty good, considering, but at the same time, so he could be stealing somebody else's clips. He could have this costume. It's not unheard of to make your own costume. Like we can make actual Sasquatch looking costumes now. Like
sure.
it's 2021, we can do it.
Yeah, my sister is a scrapbooker and makes all kinds of shit, so I'm sure cranking out a Sasquatch costume isn't the hardest thing in the world to do.
No, not at all. Not at all. It's so yeah, I mean it's not like people can't fake something like that. It's not like we can't, make these costumes now. But I am curious. I want to know if there's different origins to it. Like I said, he could have ripped somebody else's clip. Now the guy's channel, to me, I was kind of watching some of the videos and it kind of seems very satirical. So I think that, he probably just uses it as like a joke. I don't know. Anyway, I found it because I was looking through the news and this video was brought to my attention, and it was recently uploaded to a channel called NVTV, which I'll tell you, they suck. Usually they have a lot of hoaxed videos, so I wouldn't be surprised if it was fake. But
Right.
that's my first piece of news. My other one is a lot more interesting. There's been more cattle mutilations in Oregon.
Mm.
Yeah, a really important one actually. This happened at the Thomas Angus Ranch, and it was their prize-winning bull that they actually loved so dearly. And this was August 14th. It was discovered. It was missing its nose, tongue, its left cheek, its ear, an eye, the reproductive organs, and part of its tail. So with this deep dive into the Oregon cattle mutilations and how they just kind of we've had a new flap recently. I discovered that there's also a big flap happening in Argentina, which
Huh.
is very interesting because kind of the folklore there is that they believe that it's a chupacabra, because that's where the chupacabra kind of started, was, South American lore. And people have seen chupacabras exiting spaceships, and, doing weird things. We've talked about it before. There was a case a couple months ago where nobody ever fucking talked about it again. The whole village saw the chupacabra come out of the spaceship and then it just left. But Argentina's having a very similar flap. And not just that, they are finding, what they're doing there is, there's a ufologist who is, trying to like tie together things there. And what she's finding that about 50% of the cattle mutilations that they have accompany weird things like lights in the sky, UFO sightings,
Sure.
changes in the animals, other things happening like power outages, and so they're trying to see. Now, correlation doesn't mean causation, but they're definitely taking it a little bit more seriously than than the Oregon cattle mutilations are. So yeah, that's another update. We every time this happens, we're always like, we should talk about cattle mutilations, and then we just keep not doing an episode about it. One of these days we will.
It's gonna solve itself, and then we'll just do the definitive episode once it's already been solved. We'll talk
There we
about
go. Wrap it up. Like, this is
it.
what
Yeah.
happened. This is what we know. Like, there's plenty more Weird Wednesdays in the future, so it's not.
Sure. I hear there's gonna be one next week.
You know what? There just might be one next week. But we'll figure it out eventually. I don't plan on taking a break anytime soon, so that's I think I've taken 1 week off since I've started this a year and a half ago. So this is my track record, but we'll get around to it. But yeah, more cattle mutilations. How lovely. No more of those sea lions or seals or whatever it was they were that washed up on the. I haven't heard any more about that. That would be interesting to see. Anyway, so yeah, that's happening. That's my news for the week. That's what I had. Pat, what do you think about video games?
I play lots of them.
Do you?
Yeah. It's a huge part of my life, believe it or not.
I had no idea.
Oh, yeah, we talk about video games all the time.
We talk about video games, but I just thought maybe you kind of just, casually played them and think it was a big part of your life.
Well, now I definitely do it less, but I mean, I had a Nintendo at a very, very young age. I spent a lot of my life hanging out in arcades. I was of that age. I was born in 1981. So, I was, I don't know, like 10 when Street Fighter 2 was really big and stuff like that. Like, I
Sure.
wasn't like the first wave of arcade gamers that were doing like Donkey Kong or fucking Space Invaders or whatever in like the early 80s, like Tron, but definitely like kind of that like 90s arcade renaissance. I used to hang out at Aladdin's Castle, the Chicago Ridge Mall, and that was where I was every weekend. And console gaming, and then I got a PC pretty early on, and I figured out how to do the PC gaming stuff. Yeah, I'm a pretty big
Wow.
fucking nerd, man. I mean, I'm 40 now, so I'm significantly less nerdy. I don't have the time to be it, but yeah,
Sure.
that's where I'm from.
Big part of your life. Interesting. Well, I mean, honestly, and I don't talk about it as much as I should, but same. I'm a retro video game collector, so I don't the only console that I keep current in my life is anything that Nintendo puts out. So like I have a Switch. But like as far as my newest consoles go, I think the newest one, yeah, the newest I have is a PlayStation 3. Because I won't buy anything at retail price. I like the thrill of the bargain as well as knowing what I found and what I have. So I don't rush out and buy the brand new thing. Like I said, except for Nintendo, just because they tend to last the stand the test of time. But recently, in recent years, I had bought a copy of Killer Instinct, which was one of my
Oh
childhood
yeah.
games, one of my favorites, and so I bought Killer Instinct on the Super Nintendo, but I didn't own a Super Nintendo yet, so I bought a $20 game to go out and buy a $60 console, but that's fine. I needed one anyway. I've got like the SNES Mini, along with classic Nintendo things like that. I mean, I just as I kind of go out and buy these things, I just collect them gradually. Used to be a little bit more hardcore about it. Every once in a while, I'll make a big purchase. I'm currently looking. I'm currently looking for Earthbound.
Oh, dude, I'm
Because
playing that right now. That's so crazy you would say that. Did I not tell
I've
you that?
you did not tell me that you're playing Earthbound right now. No,
Yeah, I
I'm
have.
very sad.
I'm in Tucson. I'm actually almost done with Tucson. I so yeah, what I did, how I got Earthbound was I got this. Well, actually, my son for his birthday, his godfather, because I told him just to give us. We were collecting GameStop gift cards to get a PS5 when they come out,
Sure.
and I told my son's godfather, "So just give us a GameStop gift card. We have a drawer full of them, and then when PS5 becomes available, we're just gonna go get one." And he was like, "Well, I'll do one better." And he bought us an NES emulator off Amazon, which was like very cool of him. Thank
That's
you.
cool. Yeah.
And so yeah, it's an NES emulator. It was like, I don't know how much it was. It doesn't really matter. It's the thought that counts. But it was just a console, but it was a console that plays Nintendo and Super Nintendo games. And
Hmm.
then I went on Amazon and I got a Super Nintendo cartridge that I bought off Amazon for like $20. And it's got ROMs of like 101 different Super Nintendo games. And Earthbound is on there.
See, I've been
So
curious about those because that's what I did. When I bought my Super Nintendo, what I did actually, I didn't buy a Super Nintendo. I bought a clone console that plays NES and Sega and SNES games,
yeah.
and so that way, because I'm out of TV space basically. I mean, I've got consoles all over in my living room and my bedroom, so that way I can pull the actual consoles and just play it instead, and replace all three of those with that one clone console. But I'm curious about the cartridges with the those types of deals. I've played Earthbound a lot, a couple of
Sure.
times.
Yeah, yeah.
We're actually going to discuss Earthbound on this episode, but
Are we?
yes, we are.
Awesome.
Yes, we are. And but we'll get there. But I play it. I've got it for the Virtual Console on my Wii U. I've got it's on the SNES Mini. I've played on emulators, things like that. But I want to own the physical copy as a collector. That's kind of one of the big ones like that you want to have. But it's like $200. So, but I'm gonna buy it. So it's gonna happen. I just have to find. I want to try to get it for 160 somewhere. I know it's going to be hard, but I'm going to try. It might even be like 250 now. I don't even know. But that's my goal. Like I said, kind of the thrill of it. Usually, here's the thing: is that usually I do end up getting what I want. I don't know what it is. I'm not sure if it's the boobs, but it's probably the boobs. I don't know. I don't know if it's because like I frequent these game shops and stuff locally. I mean, I'm in Dayton, Ohio. We have a bunch of them. They know that I'll come in and I will buy some things at their market value. I'll come in and buy a bunch, hundreds of dollars worth of shit and walk out. So I don't know if they just don't mind cutting me the deal. But the thing is that you have a copy of Earthbound, somebody's going to buy it at that price.
Yeah.
So I don't know. We'll see. It's kind of a challenge for me to do that. But I've bought in other games, rarer games for cheaper, like my copy of Persona, the original Persona.
I don't get how to play. Is that an RPG?
Yes. You don't know how to play Persona? Oh my
Persona
gosh.
5 is something that like keeps
Oh my
being on
gosh.
PlayStation, but there's like too many like add-ons, I guess, or like DLC to where I'm just kind of confused by it and I just leave it alone. Like
So
scroll
I have
past
not
it.
played Persona 5 yet.
Okay.
But I mean, I own it because I got it again, the newest console I have is the PS3, and it came out. Persona 5 came out right when they were shifting like from PS3 to PS4.
Mm-hmm.
But I ended up getting it on the PS3. I haven't played it yet. But I've played other. The Mega 10 games are my favorite. That's part of the Shin Megami Tensei, the Mega 10 series. Big fucking nerd. I like JRPGs a lot, so
Yeah.
that's kind of my jam.
The ones I probably played the most were the Xenosagas. You ever play those?
Yes, Xenogears.
Well, Xenogears, I never played that one. That was for PS1.
Oh my god!
And then, but that was like episode 5, and then they did Xenosaga, which was like episode 1. I did like the first 3 of those, and those were PlayStation 2 games. And then
I cried so many times playing Xenogears.
Oh,
I was so attached to that goddamn game. But I could talk about regular video game stuff for forever. That's actually, as a matter of fact, when I started initially and decided to try my hand at YouTubing and stuff, I was a part of a bigger project called Mag's Portal, and my job was retro video games, reviewing, doing retrospectives for video games and stuff like that. So it's definitely a big part of my life. It's just something I don't really get to talk about a lot. So I am excited about talking about something like this. Maybe not quite in the same vein, but I don't know. Maybe we could do like a bonus episode sometime of a video game talk.
We'll do a spin-off show.
We could do another people who talk about video games. But anyway, so obviously you guys know what you're here for. You're here for these video game legends, conspiracies, myths. I don't know, scary stuff. I don't know. I guess I'll let some of you guys be the judge here. And decide what you think. So we're gonna start off soft, and then we're gonna get harder and harder. So if you're into that kind of thing, stick around. First thing I want to talk about is the Atarial landfill burial. Do you know about this, Pat?
Yeah, it's copies of E.T., I think.
Copies of E.T. buried out in New Mexico in the desert somewhere. So for a long time, people thought that this was just an urban legend, right? And so the story goes that the Atari ET game did so fucking badly that they just straight up took all the copies of it remaining because nobody was buying it and buried it out in the middle of the desert somewhere in an unmarked grave, basically. And that was it, But again, there was no real conclusive did they do this? Did they not do this? Even the guy who worked on the ET game, like he was saying, no, that didn't happen. Yeah, they probably got rid of all the cartridges and stuff, but like they didn't go bury them somewhere. And people talked about it for a long time until 2014. A guy making a film called Atari Game Over, kind of embarked on this project with other people involved to excavate the landfill, and they did. And lo and behold, guess what they found? So the landfill actually wasn't just ET games. It was pretty much everything that they had. They had a warehouse right down the street. Basically, it was in El Paso, and they took everything that they had and they buried it there. Actually, they purportedly buried over 700,000 games. in that landfill. So, and it happened. They did this in September of 1983. So within about a week, what was happening was the kids in the area were going and digging up the games and stuff like that. And it was becoming really dangerous. So they actually poured a whole slab of concrete over top of where they buried the games and then filled it in with more dirt so that you couldn't get to it.
Mm-hmm.
And then they didn't really want to encourage people to go out digging for it because they didn't want, it was a safety concern. They didn't want people to get hurt.
Sure.
But they did eventually excavate, not all the games. They only excavated about a little over 1,100 games. Some of them have been, moved to museums and things and, given to some people. I know like at one point, the people working on excavating these things, we're kind of just giving them away because they're shitty fucking games. You can buy them anywhere for like 50 cents. But kind of a bad move because, I mean, you would think that, being at the entire landfill, I mean, they got a little bit more market value. But then again, I guess, how can you prove it? I don't know. It's not like they were handing out certificates with them, but, they did find it. And again, you can watch this journey in the Atari Game Over documentary. I've watched it. It's pretty good if you're into that kind of thing. Also, I had mentioned him previously on the show, but we'll talk about him again. The Angry Video Game Nerd, who was a YouTuber, made a movie, and the basis of the movie is about the Atari landfill situation. And actually, they kind of say that the reason why it was buried, it was like a conspiracy. They said that in the movie, the reason why it was buried was because the ET game contained a map of Area 51. And
waka waka.
Yeah, hilarity ensues. A lot of fans really don't like the movie. I liked it. But if you're not a fan of of his show, you're not going to like the movie anyway. But it's just called the Angry Video Game Nerd movie. But yeah, that's a big popular one. You got any thoughts on the Atari?
I remember that game because I didn't have Atari. My first system was NES, but my babysitter had. They were like gifted an Atari when somebody had gotten an NES and then given them their old Atari. So I remember those old Atari games. And one of the things that I mentioned the Retronauts show earlier in this episode, but it's funny to hear other people that are my age talk about video games and how like bleak and like confusing video games were back then, where you weren't really given much in the way of instructions. There was no way to go on. There was no YouTube to watch walkthroughs or anything like that. So you would get a video game and you would just kind of literally have to figure out everything about it. Like what you're doing, what the controls do, what the point was. And E.T. was like one of those games where I don't think we necessarily knew what was happening. Like, we knew it was an E.T. game because there was a sticker on it that said it was E.T., and we knew we were E.T., but you're just kind of like walking through the forest or something, and I don't know if you're looking for keys or whatever, but it was like Atari games were, if it wasn't like Centipede or Space Invaders or something like that, they were usually pretty confusing because there was very little like game to them.
Well, and they shouldn't. I mean, having depth in those kinds of games was difficult to translate.
Right.
And that's how it was with the ET game, and that's one of the reasons why it did so bad. And they kind of again, if you've watched the nerd and you've seen his review on it, he explains it pretty well. It's just that you had to read the manual, and that really wasn't something that you had to do with a lot of these games. You kind of just and yeah, you had to figure them out. There's a learning curve, but you figured it out eventually. And this game was not that. Like, you had to read it in order to really understand what you were doing. And again, Atari just didn't really have that capability to, and then mix with people not being able to do it. Also, they made that game within 6 weeks, and that was insane for the time.
Yeah.
You didn't make video games that fast. It was crazy.
It wasn't like the movie came out and they realized they didn't even think about the video game tie-in at first, and then with Christmas coming or something, they saw that this would be a way to capitalize on it, and they released a game by Christmas. Then it was pretty much ensured that everybody that had an Atari would buy this game, or that's what they thought.
Well, and they did that also with Pac-Man. Pac-Man was also that. I don't know if you've ever played Pac-Man on the Atari. I'm sure you've played it on the arcade. Everybody knows Pac-Man, right?
Uh-huh.
But if you play it on the Atari, it's fucking awful. Everything's block shaped, and it's just, it's bad. It's not. It doesn't run smoothly like it does in the arcade. It's not good, and it was a huge fucking flop. And they thought for sure, like, people were lining up out the fucking door to go to the arcade and play Pac-Man. They thought for sure that bringing it into the home was going to be a huge deal, and it absolutely was not.
Right.
People hated it. And, for the time, ET's always seen as like the last nail in the coffin of the video game age, because that's when we had the video game crash. And they did so poorly at that point. And, fucking Atari burying these things was kind of like symbolic of them just burying video games. And
Well,
then
I think what happened was they realized, and this is something that happened like with video game movies too, or I'm sorry, comic book movies. At some point there's this idea that we can just kind of make whatever and people buy things, right? We
sure.
don't have to worry about the quality of the content, you know. Um, License plus platform equals success. If we release, a Fantastic Four movie, it's going to automatically succeed because everybody likes Fantastic Four, and it's going to be a big movie and people are just going to go see it. We don't have to worry about it being a good movie. We have a popular property and we're going to release it in this way, and it's going to be an automatic success.
Yeah.
And the fact that you're going to rush a ET video game, ET was obviously a huge fucking movie, and they figured, well, we could just throw anything together in 6 weeks and that'll be that, and it'll be a success, and we don't have to worry about playability, we don't have to
Right. We
worry
don't
about
care
any.
if they like it, they're going to buy it.
Right. And then that inevitably always ends up biting them on the ass. Things have to be good. And it seems like a ridiculous point to have to hammer home, but sometimes we need to remind ourselves of this. It has
Right.
to be good. It cannot be bad. If it's bad, no one's going to want it. No one's going to buy it. Someone's going to make something good, and everyone's going to go get that instead.
Right.
Right. So, yes, E.T. was a bad game. Atari was making bad games. And if you look at the leap between Atari and Nintendo, and there was other gaming systems too. There was the Master System, which was like the Genesis, like the Nintendo or the Genesis and stuff. But if you look at like what they could do from one to the other, like the Atari, I think the 7800 was where they left off. Because the Atari, there was like 3 Ataris. There was a 2600, the 5200,
and the 78.
Yeah, and then 78. And like there was very little difference between each of those upgrades. But if you look at like the 7800 to the Nintendo, it's absolute fucking light years.
Right.
And at that point, Atari was in the dust. And you had the rise of home computing games. People that had, the Amiga, or they had computers or PCs or whatever.
Right.
That, so.
Yeah. Well, Atari did have the Jaguar. They came out with the Jaguar to compete with the.
That was like the 32X era. I remember that. They had.
It was a weird time for video games.
Yeah, it was post. It was right after Sega CD, and you had Atari had the Jaguar. I think maybe there was a Sega Saturn, or you had the Genesis.
No, it was the Sega CD. It was
Sega CD, but it was 32X.
And the 32X
right.
They were pretty much at the same time.
And the only thing that the Jaguar really had, and then there was the Neo Geo, which was like, or 3DO. There was like a bunch of other like weird ones.
Yeah, the 3DO, the Neo Geo could have been so fucking cool, and some of the games it has are really fucking cool. But it's the same issue that happened with the Atari Jaguar, is that the Jaguar just did not have the games that people wanted.
It had Alien versus Predator.
And everybody really, really likes that.
Yeah, but I never played it because that was literally the only game for that console.
The only reason why you would buy it, right?
Yeah, and it was a first-person shooter where you could be either the alien, the predator, or the space marine.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I should honestly, after we get done doing this, I'm going to go on YouTube and watch gameplay videos and see how it stacks up. Because
that's a good idea.
I don't think I've ever. I only saw pictures of that like in GamePro or like EGN or something. Like I've never actually seen that before.
Yeah.
But that was it. That was their big comeback. But tying into my D&D stuff, they did get the license later on. They moved into computer games, and Atari did Enter the Matrix which was a decent enough Matrix video game. And then they also did Dungeons and Dragons Temple of Elemental Evil. And that was an excellent PC gaming D&D adventure. It was probably even today, like they just released this piece of shit D&D game for the PS4, which I fucking cannot stand. But probably the best Dungeons and Dragons video game, if not the Sega Genesis's Warriors of the Eternal Sun, is Atari's Temple of Elemental Evil for the PC. So they still kind of kicked around a little bit, but now I don't think they're fucking doing anything.
Yeah.
They're
No,
dead as
they're
dead.
not. They're done. they're done. And really, when they buried the shit in the landfill, that's probably when they should have stopped. Because then we had Nintendo and Mario, and it saved video games. It really did.
Right.
It saved the fucking video game culture, which is, I guess a great thing. Ended up being born from the ashes anyway. But yeah, no, that actually did happen. Atari went and took a bunch of their shit and buried it out in the desert somewhere because they failed so miserably. So that's true. That's real. That happened. But well, let me switch gears here. Let's go over to something that maybe didn't happen, or maybe it did. We don't know. This is actually kind of the reason why we did this episode was because I had mentioned Polybius to Pat. And Pat, you'd never heard of this, is that right?
At the time, I had not.
You had not heard of Polybius. Now again, maybe, and that kind of came as a shock to me, but then again, I guess now that I think about it, I don't know why it would. Polybius is allegedly an arcade game that was only in Portland, Oregon, supposedly, that came out in 1981, and it was so fucking popular. People were lining up out the door to play this game. They were breaking out into fights to play it. So extremely a popular, very addictive game. And it was only there for about a month, and then it just kind of disappeared. Rumor had it that about once a week, a man in black would come and seem to pull information from this arcade cabinet. Nobody really knew what was happening. Other people that had played the game were experiencing bouts of, after playing it for long periods of time, of amnesia and insomnia, night terrors, hallucinations, headaches, all kinds of issues. And then it just disappeared. Like I said, nobody ever heard about it again. And people have kind of talked about it. Now, the thing about Polybius is that we don't really know if it exists, and it's possible that it doesn't. However, it's also very possible that it does. And it actually, nowadays, technically, it does exist. And we'll kind of get into that in a second. So, the story of Polybius kind of became more relevant in the year 2000, when it was added to an arcade cabinet resource website called coinop.org. You can actually still go on there and look at the Polybius page. You can go on there and look at all these arcade cabinets. It's a really cool website. But it showed up there on February 6th in the year 2000, and there really wasn't much known about it. The copyright for it said that it was from 1981, and it mentioned like these weird rumors surrounding it, but that was really it. And then, of course, the internet started talking. People claim to have remembered this game. Some people have alleged to claim it. So, somebody knew, their cousin's, husband's late father's, somebody died playing it. It was just kind of one of those things, and it really, really, really took off. Now, this would be pretty easy for somebody like this to just create this fake story. We've seen it happen a lot. However, in the 1980s, what we know is that it was a very strange time, okay, especially with the government and things like that. We know that there was probably still some really shady MK Ultra type stuff going on. Kind of touched on that a little bit. At the time, these arcades were hot spots for criminal activity. You had kids selling drugs to each other. You had teenagers, or not even just teenagers, criminals going in and pickpocketing people because you had all these kids with just all this loose money in their pocket. And then also some of the arcade machines in some of these places were gutted and they were actually used for gambling, which is also illegal. So what we know, we do have documentation from the FBI saying that they were actually going and bugging some of these arcade games. They were putting cameras inside of them. They were putting listening devices inside of them, and they were coming in and out of these places. So you would see men in suits carrying out whole arcade cabinets frequently and stuff like, and you would have, again, you would have cameras on these things. It's not like that was unheard of. So is Polybius a thing? I don't know, Pat. What did you learn about it since probably everything I just said?
No, I had heard that really there was a GamePro article about like GamePro did some kind of story in the early 2000s or a feature about like Legends of the Arcade or something like that. I don't
Right.
know. Maybe it's for like a Halloween issue or something. And they mentioned it. And then after it was mentioned in there, it was kind of like a creepypasta where like it just kind of spiraled from there.
Right.
One of the explanations that I had heard that really I thought was very interesting was that somebody had said that you know, the reason that the idea of these men in black coming in and every couple weeks and looking at this machine is because if any arcade owner ever had any of the Laserdisc video games that people like Dragon Lair. I don't know if you're familiar with
Yeah.
that.
Oh yeah.
Okay, like
Oh
the
yeah.
Don Bluth animated video games that were played off Laserdiscs.
Yeah.
Those were huge draws. People loved those things. It was like amazing technology.
Yeah.
However, they were constantly breaking down because it was almost too cutting edge technology to be thrown in
Right.
an arcade with a bunch of fucking prepubescent boys and just banged around on all day. So yeah, there was repairmen there constantly servicing these machines. So this idea of like, yeah, there was this game and sometimes it would work and there'd be all these people crowded around it fighting to play. And then sometimes it would be off and these men would come in and fix, like that's kind of how it worked, in these arcades
Right.
a lot is that, yeah, they did need to be serviced constantly and they were sometimes broken down and yada, yada, yada. So, I saw that, but no, I had never heard of this, although it does have like the story about it kind of rhymes with, the idea of these forbidden works of art, be it like the play The Killer in Yellow, or if anyone that watched American Horror Stories this season, there was one about a movie that screened at a drive-in that turned everyone into zombies. This is kind of a recurring thing where someone creates something
Yeah.
and it has an effect on the audience and it drives them insane. It's banned art. Also, one of my favorite movies of all time, The Last Starfighter. I don't know if you're familiar with that one. That might be a little bit before your age.
No, I know about this because they think that Polybius might be based off of that.
Okay, yeah. The Last Starfighter, which is an idea that aliens were using arcade games to find fighter pilots. And I mean, that kind of always made me feel good about being good at video games, was that I wasn't just
Sure.
playing video games, I was actually training for some intergalactic war. But they do the same thing like in Terminator 2. Like there's this scene where John Connor's at the mall with the little red-haired kid and he's playing like Afterburner and they show him being like really good at it and he's very determined. And it's like, okay, are we supposed to believe that the reason John Connor's fucking John Connor was because he was good at video games? Like,
Right.
all right, whatever you say, James Cameron, like that's fine. But yeah, so this is kind of a recurring thing too, that I think it's a delusion that every video game nerd in the 80s harbored, that I wasn't just wasting my life playing this game, that
Yeah.
somehow this will be used for something later on. And in fact, one last anecdote I'll bring up, Ernest Cline, the guy that wrote Ready Player One, his follow-up novel to Ready Player One was his book Armada, which is basically it's a ripoff of Last Starfighter, but there's twinges of like it's an MMORPG that he's playing, and but it's basically like Last Starfighter. So this idea that video game nerds are really training, they're going to be the world's most elite warriors at some point.
And you're right, and they're probably not. I mean,
No.
so
I mean, unless the drone thing, like that's the thing. I wish that I had like, I guess, but drones don't fight. Like drones just like blow up fucking daycares and shit. Like, like this idea that like if you're really good at playing video games, like you'll be a good drone pilot one day. I just think it makes people that can't fit in cockpits feel good about themselves.
yeah. Well, I mean, there's some things to this. I know that a lot of people, it wasn't unheard of for people to fall ill while playing these arcade games. I mean, there's stories that people might have maybe gotten confused, like people having heart attacks while playing games. Like one man had a heart attack playing Berserk, and people just fucking ran with it and thought that it was because of the game. One guy, I don't know if he died or he just passed out. It was after he played this game for 28 hours straight.
Yeah, I read that. But then think about how that happened when Pokemon came over, because we didn't know, like, epilepsy and the fact that this stuff could cause seizures. That was all very, very new information to us back then.
Well, we're going to talk about Pokemon too. So
yeah, I know, but like the fact that like video games could trigger
cause something like
something
that, yeah.
in epileptics was like it's still something we're wrapping our heads around. I have a buddy that is a really like normal, healthy dude, and he's very smart, and he's one of my best friends. The dude cannot play first person shooters. They give him like motion sickness. Just something about that and the
Sure.
way that it affects his brain. And he's not like a weird, there's nothing else wrong with him as far as, I mean, he's a scumbag, but that, that doesn't.
Well, especially in some of these arcade cabinets, it's not like you're not just standing there. First of all, I mean, you're pretty immersed in it, and some of the cabinets were very intricate. So they're very involved. Like think of like a racing game. You know what I mean? You're kind of more in the game than you would be sitting at home or what have you. So yeah, I mean, of course they were bound to cause issues, and again, small crime was happening in these areas. You had gambling and drugs and pickpocketing and what have you. And then of course, you do have the FBI element to it. So it's not like there's nothing to the story. However, do you think Polybius ever existed?
No.
You don't think so?
No, but I think that the reason, like you said, but it speaks about, it speaks more about the subculture of what was going on at the time, and I think that's why so many people are fascinated by it.
Well, and oddly enough, now you can play Polybius, allegedly.
No, someone made one but they just like used the name because they realized
a couple of them have been made.
Yeah,
and so you can play them. Actually, going back again, I know I keep endorsing this fucking guy, but Angry Video Game Nerd did a whole episode on it. So it's kind of endearing that like within the video game culture, it's like it's not real, but like it's real. You know what I mean? So he did a whole video about it, and it was like a horror story. Basically, it's pretty good.
Nerds love their callbacks.
About what's that?
I said nerds love their callbacks.
Yeah, they do. But no, he did a video about it. You should definitely check it out. It's just Angry Video Game Nerd Polybius. And it's he did a good job. But yeah, it's kind of just shows that again within like the video game culture, it's just one of those things where like again we all know that it's not probably real, but like we're going to defend it to this day that it is. So, but for all intents and purposes, it's not. I'm going to say that it's not real. It never existed. It's just fun. It's just a fun story. But if you have any proof that it did, I will happily take it. So that's for sure.
Sure.
That's Polybius. So, as you can tell, I've sectioned these up to just kind of get darker and darker. So here we go. I told you we would talk about Earthbound, right? This one's more of this is kind of a hard category to cover in general, because you have something as innocent as the Atari landfill, and then of course, as dark as what we're going to end it on. With Earthbound, this is more of a fan theory,
okay.
but a damn good one. So you're playing Earthbound. Have you played it before?
Yeah.
Okay, so you're familiar. So it's got some weird stuff in it sometimes. Right? It's got some really strange things. But the final boss, what is it? Gygus, I believe is how it's pronounced. It's fucking weird, right? It's kind of scary. honestly, in this game that's really kind of wholehearted and like you're eating hamburgers for health and shit like that, it's kind of weird. It's kind of out of place. So the fan theory goes that the fight that you're having with Gygas is that you're not actually like fighting Gygas. What you're doing is you are performing an abortion and you are killing the fetus of Gygas before it even has the chance to come out and take over the world.
Right. I mean, that's exactly what you're doing.
Well, yes and no. So you are stopping it in like a form, but I know that the creator of the game has not. He's actually said that that's not. You're not doing an abortion. But like even the final dungeon that you're in, like you enter a fucking vagina cave.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like you go up to this cervix thing to fight this thing.
What?
And when you look at the image, okay, when you look at the image of this thing, it there's like so you first have Gygas and it's just this weird twisted face. But then it multiplies across the screen and it starts kind of moving. But the way it looks with the pattern, there's clearly the outline of a fucking baby in the background. I'll post a picture of it with the episode. It's obvious what you're doing.
Yes,
right?
You're absolutely right.
So, and then like the dialogue is fucking weird. Like it's fucking weird. Gygas is saying shit like oh, I don't even, I actually, let me pull it up because it's fucking strange.
So while she's pulling that up, I'm just going to riff on this for a second. So Earthbound is definitely one of those games where the creator was a Japanese. I actually know about this because of the Retronauts podcast where they did an episode on Earthbound. The guy that wrote Earthbound had never written video games before. He was a copywriter. He was a guy. He was like a Don Draper of the advertising world in Japan. And he knew of Nintendo. This was released on the for the Super Nintendo in like the mid 90s. So, this was video games were an established platform. This guy just decided he was going to write this video game, and it's very much a Japanese person's interpretation of Western culture. And it has a very wholesome 1950s, 60s America vibe to it. In fact, Earthbound is kind of like the Paul's Boutique of video games because they sample Beatles and Rolling Stones music in the score.
Yeah. Yes,
for the video game, which was something that
they
never really were able to do before, and legally they've never done since, which is why you have such a hard time finding it. Like they don't re-release it, they don't port it. I mean, like Earthbound and Earthbound 2, the characters are in Super Smash Brothers, so it's a franchise. You can buy amiibos of them. Like
Ness. Okay, so it's part of a series called the Mother series. There's 3 of them.
Right. Yeah. So Earthbound is Mother 2.
Right,
and
as Mother 2, right?
Yeah, and then there was Mother 3. Mother 3 was Earthbound / Earthbound 2. I think it came out on the DS.
I think it did, but it only came out in Japan.
Yeah,
it hasn't been released in America.
Right, but they still have amiibos of the main character.
Is Ness in Earthbound 3? In Mother 3? I've never played it.
No, he's only in Earthbound. But the main character from Mother 3, Earthbound 2 / Earthbound 2, they have an amiibo for, and he is a playable character in Super Smash Brothers.
Okay, I didn't even know that.
Yeah. So so there's and then you have to understand, like when they write these video games in Japanese, they don't like to translate the script into American for when it's made, for when they release it in America. Those translations aren't always like, they're of varying degrees of quality. And a lot of times things get lost in the translation, and a lot of times there's words and even concepts don't translate perfectly well, right? And I think Earthbound is one of those things where it is very kind of I don't want to say disjointing because it makes it still flows. It's almost like dreamy and just like really fucking weird.
It's really weird. And and this isn't the only like fan theory that there is with, I mean, another one is that Ness is Gygas and that like you die in the end because you have to basically like kill yourself, and like
Eh.
it's interesting, and there's like different clues throughout that make it that way, and
I'll drink the tea on the abortion one, because that is basically what you're doing, and you're right.
right,
You are in like a very
you're in a vagina cave.
a bio. Yeah, it's like think about like when you go into like an alien hive in the aliens movies and stuff, how it's like, it looks HR Geigery a little bit. Yeah.
Right. And so, and then, not just that. So what the creator of the game has said is that, or so I've heard, he kind of got the inspiration for this because as a young kid, he fucked up and walked into the wrong movie theater. And the movie that was playing at the time was some type of crazy, brutal Japanese movie, and he walked in on a rape scene.
What?
Yeah. Uh-huh. And that's where, kind of this fever dream fucking nightmare final bosses come from. So when you couple that with the dialogue put into place here is so I found it. So what happens is you actually can't fight, like you can't hurt Gygus. The only
Right.
thing that really defeats it is like your friends and stuff start like singing and praying or some shit.
Right.
So Gygus is like, yelling, stop it, stop yelling or stop singing. But then things start getting weird, and like the dialogue that pops up ends up getting really choppy and strange. So it's like, stop, ... please stop. And then it's like exclamation points. And then it's like, and in between this, there's like other dialogue that pops up that's like telling you that like you're basically being overcome by the power and or whatever. But then it starts saying it hurts. Then it starts saying I'm happy, but the way it spells happy is H ... A ... very slowly. And then it hurts, and then I feel good. Good is again G ... O ... I'm so sad. And it's not right. Stop it. It's not right. When you couple that with the fact that this man got the inspiration from a fucking rape scene, like it's fucking dark. It's
Yeah.
so dark. But let me tell you, Earthbound is a good ass fucking game.
Yeah.
No matter how dark it is, it's a really good game. You should definitely check it out. It was way overlooked for its time. It's unfortunate. Well, it's been made more readily available now. And of course, there's a big movement, which again, with the whole abortion thing, I mean, the series is called Mother. That's what it's called. This is just the second of the series. So decide for yourself. Again, I'll post the pictures. You guys tell me. Do you think it looks like a fetus? Because it does. It's definitely a fetus in the background of all that twisted faceness. It's just fucking straight. So
Earthbound Earthbound is a great game. Yeah, I would recommend anyone play it. It's an RPG. It's got great mechanics. It's not easy. It's grindy a little bit, but it's not like unbeatable. It's got some cool mechanics to it. Enemies that you're stronger than, you automatically beat, so that fucking is awesome.
Yeah, so eventually you just towards the end of the game you can just kind of skate through the different areas,
and then it's everything about it's kind of cool, and
it's cute. It's a cute game.
It's very cute. Yeah, the graphics are cool.
Believe it or not, until you get to the end, it's fucking horrifying.
Yeah, I remember when you turn into the robot. Like, not that I'm spoiling like a ton of it, but like
Sure.
when I was younger, because I never owned it as a kid because it was always really expensive.
Right.
It was because it was a Nintendo game, but it was always like $70. Like if video games were like 40 to 50, Earthbound was always like 70. So I never owned Earthbound, but I would always rent it.
Yeah, Nintendo doesn't depreciate in value either. Like
yeah, and it's that's why I have no problem like playing the ROM now.
Right.
Because it's really the only way I'm going to do it. But
right.
Yeah, if you even have a passing interest in video games or you remember it, if you played it as a kid, it's just as good as you remember. Check it out again. And if you never played it and you want like a decent, because it's Super Nintendo, so it's not like you're going back and playing an Atari game or a Nintendo game. Like it holds up. I mean, it's definitely got the retro vibe to it, but it's not so terribly And it was pretty cutting edge for a Nintendo game too.
No, it's good. I like the graphics on it.
Yeah,
I do. It's really good, for the time, and then just plus the gameplay itself is really good. It's funny. Like one of the enemies that you fight, and there's so many silly enemies, but I like the occultist, the happy occultist
all
that
the
you have
blue
to fight.
ones.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I just rescued the girl, and I saw that's like the last thing I did was
Fight one of
I,
those.
I beat all the cultists, and
Yeah.
then
But you fight things like stray dogs and fucking fire hydrants and so
hippies.
right, hippies, yeah, hippies, and so but it's a good game. It's really wholesome, and then when you get to the final boss, you'll be like, oh, this is what they were talking about. I see that now, because then you go into a vagina cave and you abort this
Which is
evil
very
family.
Japanese of it. I mean, it's very
Right, it makes
as
a lot of
as
sense.
as much as it's trying to do American culture, it definitely shows it's
it's
Japanese business at the end. You're like, oh
But
yeah,
no,
that's
it's really good. It's absolutely worth your time. Definitely check it out. The music is great. I mean, I can hear it in my head. It's
right.
it's timeless. It really is. For what it is. But so there's that. Okay, well let's move on. I guess to the next. I got two more here for you.
Yeah. Okay.
So imagine that you are a kid in the 90s, okay, and you are on Christmas vacation, and the one thing that you get from Santa Claus happens to be a Game Boy, right? Big deal at the time, right? Oh my gosh, the Game Boy. You can take your video games with you places. It was awesome. And accompanying with that was, of course, probably the biggest game on said Game Boy is a copy of Pokemon. Either red or blue, doesn't matter which one, right? And you're playing this game, and Pokemon, you've watched the show. It's really super wholesome. Ash is trying to, fight the Elite Four, and he wants to become the champion.
Sure, he's got to catch
You,
them all.
you want to be the very best, like no one ever was, right? And so you're enjoying this. And as you're playing the game, you are, you're catching them all. You're getting all the Pokemans, and you're liking some others, and you got your team built, and everything's a great, happy time. It's all about friendships and building bonds and being the very best. And then you stumble upon a city that is very bleak. Now, granted, again, you're playing on the Game Boy, so everything's already that weird green scale color anyway. Um, but the whole air of the place just seems weird compared to the rest of the game. And there's not a gym in this one. It's just one of those weird one-off towns. You don't have a gym leader to fight or anything like that. However, you start hearing this tale about the tower and how you need to go into this tower and rescue a ghost Pokemon. And you're like, okay. Now there are ghost types in the game, we know that. But then you enter this tower and you are met with not the typical, tall grass or even the Zubats in the cave. You're met with gravestones and your NPCs standing next to the respective gravestones of their beloved Pokemon. But this is happening, and while this is happening, not just that is going on, but you were hit with probably, I'll just be honest with you, probably the most terrifying sound you've ever heard in your entire life. It just crawls all over your skin. It really gets to you. And meanwhile, you are tasked with rescuing the soul of this Pokemon. So you're hit with a reality, for one, that Pokemon actually do die, right? It's not something we think about in these games at all. And two, you have to sit here and listen to this grating fucking sound play over and over again. You're in Lavender Town. A lot of people that have played Pokemon know of Lavender Town by now. But and a lot of people, if you know, then you already hear the song playing. Actually, you know what? I might put the Lavender Town theme on this episode.
Sure, while you're doing your little fucking spoken word thing, I think that'd be great.
I think so. So here's the thing. Again, Lavender Town was kind of a big deal. You are faced with this weird reality that you're not typically faced with in a Pokemon game. Again, it's very happy-go-lucky. It's very fun and lighthearted and wholesome. Just kind of like with the Earthbound stuff, except you're not aborting anything this time. But again, you do get faced with the reality that Pokemon die. And you do have to stop and talk to these characters, and they're mourning the loss of their Pokemon. And as a kid, most kids, not going to say all kids, but a lot of kids don't, you're not faced with grief and things like that immediately in your life. So it already has this very strange ambiance to it. But we're not talking about this. We're actually just going to talk about the song. So a lot of people dub this the Lavender Town Syndrome. Allegedly, when the game was first released, every Pokemon game, most video games, I'll be honest with you, they're released in Japan first, and then eventually we get them like 6 months later. But so this happened, and allegedly, when the first run of Pokemon Red and Blue came out, and kids got to the tower, with all the graves and stuff, and started hearing this song, they started experiencing fucked up shit. Like they were sick. Some kids allegedly even killed themselves over this terrible, terrible noise. And people didn't really know what was going on. Now, here's the thing. Okay, there is no proof behind this at all, except for the fact that what we do know is that the version released in Japan is not the same thing that we ended up getting in the United States. It's a different, the song is slightly different. People have ran it through programs. They've seen that it's different. So they did tweak it. And so it's kind of kicked off this whole conspiracy feeding into this rumor as to why. Now, I'm not sure what came first. I don't know if people discovered that the music was different and then they wanted to know why, or if they created the story first and then decided to dig and they found out that bit of information. But as of right now, there's no proof that this song was the cause of any of this. However, there are things known as binaural beats. Do you know about these? I can't say it. Binaural beats.
Yeah.
They're
people big on YouTube.
Yeah, people will use them to basically you can induce like a high from them. You can do all kinds of stuff. You can go ahead.
Supposedly you can I've seen these videos on YouTube, and you play this YouTube video and it'll give you a hands-free erection and then bring you to orgasm.
I would like to try that, except I can't get erection.
Yeah, you don't have the plumbing for it.
Will you try? Anybody try this and let me know.
Did you just ask me if I would do that? No,
I want anybody to do it. I want to know if it works.
Kind of a weird request for you.
Why is that weird? Does it work? I can't do it, or I would.
Let me ask you this: do you think that I've tried it? What do you think? You think I came across that and then just looked the other way?
I'm going to do a poll on it. Twitter, do you think that Pat tried this? Fair enough. But there's binaural beats for all kinds of things, right? And what they are is things that we actually can't hear with the naked ear. We can't as adults.
Sure.
So kids can hear differently than we can. And there's like that old people noise. I don't know if you ever heard it. Like for a long time back when like flip phones were cool, there was like that ringtone that like you could get and your parents couldn't hear you getting a text or whatever. And it's just super high pitched. Kids can hear it, adults can't. Your hearing degenerates as you get older. It just happens, whatever. But binaural beats are basically the same concept. So stuff you can't hear, however, it's still happening, and it can influence different parts of the brain to do different things. So a lot of people believe that the Lavender Town theme music had these in it, and that's what was causing these kinds of issues with the kids. And that's why they ended up changing it for the American release, because they didn't want a repeat of what was going on, and that this has kind of been a big cover up. I've always kind of chalked this one up to creepypasta. But as we were talking about earlier in the episode, wouldn't be the first time that Pokemon hurt kids. I guess is the way to put it.
Sure.
They had the Porygon episode where a bunch of kids had seizures because of the flashing lights or whatever in it, and that episode's now pulled. It's considered lost media. You can't watch it anywhere. But the Lavender Town music you can still find. Again, I'll probably put it in here. Why not? You might have already heard it already. I don't know. But what do you think of this one, Pat?
I want to go back to the way you started off this one, is that you said, now imagine you get a Game Boy for Christmas, and you of course, what do you get with it is Pokemon. And it's like, what? Like, no, when I got a Game Boy, the only thing you got with it was Tetris. And you're fast forwarding like 7 years
for these. That's a good point, I guess. I don't know.
I had Pokemon Red and Blue came out, and those were available for Game Boy, the weird grayscale one. I didn't have a Game Boy at that point. At that point, I know that came out Pokemon didn't come out to like my senior year in high school, and or a little bit later, and it wasn't really on my radar. I knew what it was, but I was kind of like, eh. But then when I was, about when I was like 19, 18, 19, 20, Game Boy Color came out. So the Pokemon game that I did have was the Game Boy Color Pokemon Yellow, which is where you start out
Okay.
with Pikachu.
Okay.
So that was like the third one. So it was red and blue for the longest time on the grayscale. And then
Yeah, Red and Blue came out in 98. The Game Boy came out in 89, so that is a big difference. But
yeah.
I know people that got a Game Boy just for the Pokemon
Sure.
game.
I re-got one because I'm sure my original Game Boy I gave it to one of my cousins or something. And
but that is a big difference, yes.
Yeah, so I got the color one. And when you bring up like Lavender Town, like I know because we talked about, obviously you told me what we're going to be covering
Sure.
this week. I don't know if I remember that. Like maybe I didn't get that far, or maybe I just it didn't. The ghost Pokemon stuff. Like I know my son watches a lot of YouTube videos, and I know the idea that when Pokemon die, like that's where ghost Pokemon come from. And there's some really
Right.
fucked up lore with some of the Pokemon too.
Well, right. I was going to say that some of these Pokédex entries are fucked
Yeah,
up.
there's some weird shit in there. But yeah, I mean it doesn't, as far as there being some kind of tone that could have had an effect on kids. I mean, I think whether or not, I don't think it was necessarily done intentionally, but the fact that it was changed in the different versions
Mhm.
shows that they must have felt a need to do that. So there must have been some kind of adverse reaction. But
Because you can absolutely induce fear with binaural beats, and if that was kind of the point to do it, was to make some type of cutting edge technology at the time to make you kind of feel more during your gameplay.
it could have been a happy accident. It could have been like, hey, look, we're going to do this, and
It could have been.
and then there's
It
always
could
the
have
fact
been.
the composers and music people are always doing fucking weird shit just to, people are looking for ways to cut corners and write an interesting song. And I know like there's supposed to be, I remember I've always had lots of friends in bands, and I had friends that were in this one band, and I remember them working. One of them had learned that there was um there was chords that were considered like cursed chords. Do you know that?
No.
Like, okay, so I don't know if it's like a minor seventh or fucking whatever, but chords that had a very demonic sound to them, or they sounded evil, or they sounded dark or foreboding or something. And back in the Renaissance or whenever, when people were composing music, you didn't use those finger formations on a piano, right? You wouldn't use that chord in a song because it was too dark and it was too
Huh.
jarring.
Okay.
And those were kind of just labeled like demonic chords or forbidden chords or something like that. It was something that you would do on a piano, but that piano translates to guitar. So then they were like, "Oh, well, we should write a song just use notes, and that would be a fucking badass song." And it's like, okay, you're trying to find a gimmick to write something that's interesting. Maybe it'll work,
Sure.
maybe it won't. So maybe when they were writing the score for Lavender Town, they intentionally were used some shenanigans or trickery. I don't think it was like a psyop or anything.
No, I don't either.
It might have been a happy accident that led to us understanding binaural beats more. But I think the fact that if they were to change the music from version to version, shows that definitely they realized that, intentional or not, they did something, and we're trying to make sure they didn't do it again.
Right.
So I think it's a true story. How
Um,
much intentional it was, I think, is debatable. But
And it could have just been headaches or sickness, or you know what I mean. It could have been something simple like that. It didn't have to be kids killing themselves.
right,
And
right.
that's so again, it's just a bigger story based off of this small thing that happened that wasn't great, but they fixed it. But it is interesting. I mean, I can tell you, no matter what, when I hear the Lavender Town music, it's creepy, especially compared to like the rest of the music in the Pokemon games. It doesn't fit. It's weird. It sounds like it sounds fake almost because you couldn't imagine that being a part of the game.
Sure.
But so it does already stick out like a sore thumb, and maybe just that's why, because it is weird. And it honestly, it scared me playing the game, trying to go there. I'm like, I don't want to hear that. I'm gonna be scared. Because I knew what was coming. So, because it was scary as a kid, and so I don't know. I'm not sure what it was about it, but I don't know. I agree. I think the fact that they changed it shows that there was something. There was something to it, and I don't believe that they're just like, oh, we just didn't like that version anymore. That's the only song that you changed in the entire fucking game. That's weird.
Right.
And it happens to have this weird story behind it. I don't know, but could it be a creepy pasta? I mean, that's kind of the point of creepy pasta, is to make it believable. So it could be. I'm not willing to die on that hill. Um,
I say it's true. I say it's true, but unintentional, and it probably wasn't as severe as some of the stories I'll make it out to be.
Right, that's true. So, anyway, this one will be easier because here's the thing: we've been talking about these video games, and I mean, it's not easier as far as topics go because it's darker, but video games are you're meant to have fun with it, right? It's supposed to be something that you enjoy. But this one was a case where a video game was made, and it was specifically made to be bad. And I know, again, people that probably listen to the show probably heard of this before. We're going to talk about Sad Satan. So Sad Satan has kind of turned into its own monster. It was already bad, but then it just got worse. Some guy on YouTube called Obscure Horror Corner had this game sent to him, some dark web link sent to him, and somebody's like, hey, check out this video game. So we did, and he checks it out, and he streamed it, and it was fucking weird. And to call it a video game it doesn't even make much sense. Basically, all you are is you're a character, and you're walking up and down hallways, and they start becoming more and more distorted as you continue down the hallways, and there's weird music, not even music, noises and stuff going on in the background. I mean, it's meant to be creepy, and it's meant to creep you out. But the thing about it is that at first, when this game kind of came out, who knows? The guy on the YouTube channel could have completely fucking made this story up and made this game himself. But initially, they kind of thought maybe it was some type of commentary on child, sex abuse. And as kind of the lore progressed and this game got out there more and more, people on the dark web did start taking it and start inserting images of gore and child abuse and things like that. Don't go look for this game to play it, because if you do and you happen to get not the original version, because the original one that he streamed, again, did not have that in there, but if you do go and get the wrong version of it, you are then in possession of child porn, and as I have learned, you will go to jail for it. So
you just made that sound so much worse than it needed to sound.
You're right. It's not me. I've never been to jail for it. But
okay, all right, keep talking.
we'll talk about that eventually. But anyway, that doesn't matter. Just period. It's illegal to possess child pornography.
Thank you, fucking Matlock.
And that's just the way it is. So don't go looking for this. However, a lot of people talk about it because you don't really get video games on the dark web. You get a lot of media sharing. You get a lot of you get a lot of movies and music and things that people rip off and stuff like that. But like, as far as video games go, they really don't exist. I mean, you can get like popular games, but nobody puts like a engineered homebrew game on the deep web. It just doesn't make any sense. So a lot of people have speculated, where did it come from? Who the fuck made it? Why is it here? Is it an actual predator, and maybe some of the noises in it are instances of abuse happening that haven't been discovered? Is this somebody's story? What is it? It is very much a real, again, quote unquote game. But what was the point behind it? Just to freak people out? Again, the YouTuber could have made it. I don't know, Pat. Did you know anything? Have you heard anything about Sad Satan up until this point?
No, but I looked into it after we decided to do this week's topic, and yeah, it's real scary and off-putting, and it's just like, I don't know. I guess it's a game, I guess, right? Because it pushes.
It's interactive, I guess.
Right, so then that makes it qualify as a game. Like,
there's no
and
plot.
I don't want to act like it's cutting edge, like it pushes the boundaries of what you consider a video game.
No,
but
it's not good.
But it's just kind of one of those things where, like, I guess it's effective. Like scary video games is you could do a whole nother that's a whole different diatribe. But like scary video games have never really been that scary to me. I guess, there's a few good jump scares in the early Resident Evil games. But that was it, and I never got super into Silent Hill, so I'm sure that maybe there's stuff out there that I'm missing that's genuinely like horrifying or something. But
Yeah.
the idea that a video game would scare you, um, that's not really why I did it. And as much as I like horror movies and as much as I like video games, I never necessarily felt the need to combine the two. But I know that that's becoming kind of a thing lately. And I know that with like Five Nights at Freddy and like Bendy and the Ink Machine and this to a much lesser extent. But this is kind of the idea of people using the video game and the kind of story behind the video game to really creep people the fuck out. And I have not played this game, but like just kind of seeing what was online for it. Yeah, it was kind of creepy and made you feel dirty, and you're just like, oh, fucking, why
Well, I
does
mean,
this shit
there are
exist?
gaming YouTubers and also deep web YouTubers that like won't touch the topic of this fucking game. And I think that's just because there's so much misinformation surrounding it. It's like, there's some people that even think that like it's some type of tool to summon Satan himself. And like that's definitely not the case, right? I mean, it's just a fucking game made on some generic, platform, but it's I understand because again, like I said, if you go and play this thing and you happen upon the wrong version, then you're in trouble. And also that's disgusting, to even entertain the idea of that. And I think that people being told no, you're not allowed has definitely made it a bigger topic than what it actually is.
Right.
Because again, the original didn't have any gore or anything in it. Like none of that existed in the game. So, the fact that people went and made it something it wasn't, has definitely made it a larger thing. But yeah, I mean, I just don't, I wasn't too impressed with the story. A lot of people are. I think a lot of people are going to listen to this episode specifically just to hear us talk about Sad Satan. And I feel kind of bad for disappointing you if you're one of those people because I mean that's it. That's the story behind it. There's really nothing more. The dark web is a dark place, and we will get into that in future episodes. But as far as this goes, I mean, this just kind of scratches the surface because this is extremely tame compared to what else is out there. But as far as video game goes, I mean, it does exist. I guess it's a real game. It's real. But does it mean anything? I think it's just some edge lord being edgy, and then multiple edge lords have come along and made it even edgier. I don't think that it's it could be a commentary. It could have started off as a commentary on child sex abuse or whatever. But I don't think that it was really deep. I don't think it was supposed to lead to somebody's secret stash of kids or, anything like that. There's no evidence for anything like that. So that's all I really have to say about it. You have any?
You know what it reminds me of? And I
Sure.
was trying to have this ready by the time you finished talking so that I could kind of seamlessly
Sorry.
jump in with it.
I can continue if you'd like.
Man eating noodles and crying.
Oh,
Wow,
blank room soup.
Is that and the dude's like in a yes.
Blank
Okay.
room soup.
It reminded me of that.
Mm-hmm.
And like that's one of those things where I'm like, is this some fucking art school shit? Or am I watching something
Really, really bad. And it is. It is along. Yes, it is along the same. Sad
Yes.
Satan is along the same vein as that
Yes.
for sure.
And I guess I don't like my internet being used for this type of thing. Like
Sure.
I like the internet being a place where I can look at boobs and download Limp Bizkit songs I don't want to pay for. Like I don't. That's what the internet's there for. I want to meet girls and look at girls and listen to fucking bootleg songs. Like I don't want to watch fucking weird videos of people maybe eating their family while people in masks fucking pet their head. And I don't want to play video games with fucking kids getting banged in the background and like,
Right.
you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
why do we gotta do this as human beings, as a race? Why do we gotta always fucking go there? Like, can't we just keep things fucking PG-13 and cool? and a little bit illegal, but like in a
Yeah, I
cool
don't know about
way.
PG-13. I mean,
Well,
R maybe.
hard R, NC
Hard
17.
R.
Fuck it, yeah.
Yeah, hard R for sure, at least. But
Can't we just be fucking punk rock and cool about shit? No, it's always got to be. Someone's
no,
always got to
hold
take
on,
it too
wait a minute
fucking
now.
far.
It doesn't always have to be that way. That's the thing. Most people don't even realize how dark exactly things get. And it's very important that we know, so that way we can try to create preventative measures to stop things like this from happening. But the first sign of the start of fixing a problem is recognizing that you have a problem. So I understand what you're saying, though. I don't like it either. I don't like it, but I'm very fascinated by it because shit does get dark and definitely opens you up to a whole other world that you did not realize existed.
Well, like
And
let's kind of like what did we learn this week, Charlie Brown? Let's fucking look back at the show. Like you have because we're done now because I got to hit the fucking John. So like you had Earthbound, which was intentionally wacky Japanese storytelling
right,
that's a little bit dark and a little bit deep, but still fucking perfect and
hmm
absolutely fine. And we're not going to sit here and sing the praises of Earthbound any longer because we don't need to. All right, and then you have something like the Pokemon thing with Lavender Town, which was probably unintentional and probably something negative happened somewhere else. They wouldn't have changed the code,
sure,
but this is just kind of one of those things that happen, and it's just kind of the un unrealized power that video games might hold over us, right? And then you have the Satan one, which
this.
is people just being fucking assholes and taking something that's fairly innocuous and making it dark and depraved and
Well, right. It
illegal.
was never supposed to be enjoyable, right? I mean, it's not. Nobody was ever
Right.
supposed to really like it, except
And,
I guess fucked up people.
and
But
I guess why do we always got to take it that final step? And really, it makes me somebody, and I'm a fairly complex. I have lots of emotions and stuff, and I create things. And really, like when I look at stuff like that, all it wants me to do is turn around and create more light in the world, or create more positivity, or like
sure,
because like a lot of part of the reason I started working on this movie is because I'm like, I need my filmmaking batteries recharged. I want to do something again. I want to make another short film or make a full length film or something.
sure,
And I really didn't know what I wanted to do it about, because you have to have a story. If you're going to do one of these things, you got to be fairly possessed by whatever idea you want to
right.
express, is to put all the work into it to tell it. And I didn't have it. And I think like part of that answer of what I'm going to do next came tonight, because like, just, I don't know why everything's got to be so fucking dark. you know, like, I know that darkness exists in the world, but like, do we have to intentionally turn the lights down? You
I
know,
mean, I think so. Yeah. I mean, I think awareness is important. I don't think people should be doing the stuff, but the only reason why, it's important is because we have to make it important and we have to put it in the forefront so that way, again, people realize that this kind of stuff is very real and people are capable of terrible things. I mean, I know that sounds silly and it sounds like everybody should know this, but everybody doesn't. A lot of people just kind of live in their own bubble. And not just that. Again, and with Sad Satan being an example, there's a lot of misinformation out there about it, and people just continue to perpetuate what's not. The facts about it are really misconstrued a lot, and I think it's important to kind of settle what the difference between fact and fiction, just in general. I think it's a really good idea, because then some of the other stuff, it takes away from some of the other stuff that is absolutely 1,000% fucking serious and should be dealt with, because people are focusing their energy on dumb shit like this. It isn't great. Obviously, there's a crime committed somewhere with stuff like this, but there's a lot worse going on out there than spoopy video game mysteries. That's for sure. So I don't know. That's my soapbox. That's that's what I had to say about it. I get what you're saying. I don't like it either. Again, as somebody with a very tragic past, one of the ways that I deal with it is by delving into things like this, actually, and picking it apart and overanalyzing and studying it. And I don't know why. I couldn't tell you why. I don't know why it gives me comfort, but it does. So,
did you know? Oh no,
That flamingos are pink, depending on the amount of shrimps that they have in their diet.
I love Pink Flamingos. It's like one of my favorite movies of all time, and
You
it's
buy it for
very,
me.
very dark and nasty, but in a completely different way.
No, it's
Like
great. Yeah.
the John Waters aesthetic. Like I'm all about the darkness of the world, as long as it's just done John Waters way. You know?
What are you did you knowing me? I'm
No, I
curious.
was
Yeah.
I was looking up the blank room soup thing, and it said that it was um blank room soup. Jesus, why did I even start thinking about this again? But it said that it was a video created by uh this guy that worked on The Simpsons. And I don't think that's fucking true.
No, the guy that owns those suits are owned by that guy. He, the suits were stolen from him. The characters that you see
Yes,
petting on that guy, they were stolen from him. He doesn't know
yeah.
where that video came from. Nobody
He,
knows to this day where that video came from.
so he's a guy in L.A. That's what was crazy too. Is that I think I always just assumed that it was Japanese,
No,
or came from somewhere in Europe. But no, it was because the one person that you could see in it eating the soup
looks
is
Japanese.
is
Looks Asian.
Asian. Yeah.
Yeah.
And no, I remember this now. The guy, he's an animator. He worked on The Simpsons. He worked on Wreck-It Ralph. He had a bunch of different stuff. Very famous, and he had those suits like a graphic design friend made them for him or whatever.
He was
And
touring them. They were doing like shows, like stage shows with these suits. They were like characters.
yeah, and they were like, weren't they like drying in his backyard or something? Or they went missing from his garage. They were stolen,
They were stolen.
but
Yeah.
they were stolen from his house. And then they showed up in that video. But
Years
that to
later,
me
no.
seems like that could be an ad, like because people connected him to those suits because they were like, wait a minute, we recognize those things.
We
You had
recognize
those,
those characters.
and
Yeah.
he's like, oh, they went missing. So
Right. And a lot of people have speculated because you can't see the guy's eyes. And the thing is that once you it's kind of an illusion in a way. A lot of people have speculated the guy's not actually crying, that
he's
the guy is
laughing.
actually laughing. Right. He's laughing.
Yeah,
And when you look at it that way, if somebody showed you that video and said, hey, look at this, look at this funny video, and you'd be like, oh, I mean, you would see it that way. So we really don't know. I don't know where people got the idea that he's eating his family or, anything, or why, or he's going to die. I guess because the thing runs at him at the end of the video. But again, we don't know. It could just be a stupid video somebody made.
you know what? I think why if that goes to like you saying that, well, there's darkness in the world and this stuff helps show the darkness in the world. And I think no, we project darkness into the world because like the blank room soup video, people say that like, oh, he's eating
There's
his family,
speculation.
and you watch that and you're like, oh my god, he's eating his family. He's not. He's probably not. It's probably, but we hear that story and there's something in us that latches onto it, and then we like dwell on it and it becomes the focal point of our attention, and we like manifest this darkness even more, and it's
Yeah.
completely not fucking true. It's not based on anything that doesn't. I'm not saying that no one's ever eaten soup with human beings in it before. I'm sure they have in the history of mankind, but like that's not what's happening there. But that's what we project onto it. That is the blank. It's almost like when that blank room soup is like a blank canvas that you project whatever you have in you onto it. And when you're just given the suggestion that it's something nefarious and dark and twisted, we kind of manifest that. Like we like, you know what I mean? I don't know.
It could be.
And
I would.
I feel like the Satan game is kind of the same thing, where it's one of those, and maybe that makes it an effective piece of media, is that it engages the viewer so much.
Well, whatever the fuck it is, people are talking about. Like I said, there's going to be people that listen to this episode just for that segment alone. I promise you, it's fucking huge. So whatever the intention was of it, whether it was just this YouTuber decided to create it and create a whole story behind it, I mean, obviously it worked, and it got people talking about it, and whatever the story is there, But blank rooms, I see what you're saying. I mean, I would definitely have to dig into that a little bit more to see, because I've read about it a lot before, but I don't have my evidence or anything handy. But like I think people even might have an idea of who that guy is eating the soup, and it's not good. But I don't know. I'm not gonna. I didn't study for this one, but
All right.
we'll talk about that in the later episodes, I'm sure, because
Sure.
Going to be a whole string of internet mysteries and greatness. So it's going to be wonderful. Yeah, so that's just, but you're right. I can see that because like I said, if you watch that video with a different perspective and you were told that it was funny, that's how you would perceive it. It's funny. Without being able to see that guy's eyes, you'd be like, oh, he's laughing, he's having a good time. Ha, it's silly. That's what
Right.
you would think. So, so and so plays a prank on their friend and feeds them soup all in a weird costume. You'd be like, ah, that's, I mean, I guess. So I agree with you there. I agree with you there. I mean, as far as like why things have to get dark, I don't have the answer to that. Some people are just bad fucking people. That's why. Because there's bad, dark people in the world. And,
Sure.
it's important to talk about the good and the bad. I mean, I feel like I said, it's important for a multitude of reasons. For me, it's because I know that by reading about this stuff and indulging in this kind of media, it helps me cope for whatever reason. And I'm not a bad person, and I deserve to be allowed to cope. And I think that I know that there's others like me with similar interests because of certain things. And if I can deliver that to them and make them feel better for 2 hours, then I just did my job. So that's my take on it. But I don't have anything else. You got anything else?
No, baby, that's it.
All right, guys. Well, stay tuned for the upcoming episodes because if you like the darkness, it's gonna get worse.
Uh,
But with that being said, we'll see you guys back here next Wednesday.